Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the PowerCon 2020 exclusive Masters of the Universe Origins 35th Anniversary She-Ra action figure. That is right, my friends, it's the 35th anniversary of She-Ra, and to celebrate that, we got this exclusive figure for the 2020 PowerCon convention, which of course didn't really get to happen, at least not in person, because this has been a very weird year, which also led to all sorts of manufacturing delays, but they're finally shipping. So everybody that pre-ordered these should be getting them coming this December. Thanks to Mattel, we've got an early sample here of what they are preparing to ship out right now. So let's jump right in and take a look at it. So you can see we've got a nice mailer box there, which does have some She-Ra artwork right there on the front, as well as the back. Really cool stuff, very vintage inspired. But let's just go ahead and move that out of the way so I can bring in the actual She-Ra packaging. Now, I know this is something that folks have been really excited to see, and I'm really excited to show this to you, because this is some really fun, retro-inspired packaging. So, if you guys don't already know, She-Ra is being released as part of Wave 3 of the Masters of the Universe Origins line at retail stores. However, that She-Ra is a different figure than this one, and we'll talk about that as we're going through it. But one of the big differences, of course, is with the packaging, because the retail release is just on the standard Masters of the Universe card back with the red bursting rocks and the blue sky. This PowerCon exclusive is much more paying homage to the vintage Princess of Power toy line, with that beautiful bright pink background, the classic Princess of Power logo at the top, and we even have some amazing new artwork that pays homage to the artwork seen on the vintage packaging. You can see the shape of the bubble is also very much like that of the vintage, and we've even got this really great kind of hollow foil, like gold sticker on the front with the 35 on there with the little She-Ra wings coming off the side. All in all, it is really gorgeous packaging. In fact, before we go any further, let's do a quick comparison time, because I do have a carded vintage She-Ra in my collection. So I'm going to stand these side by side just so you can see the differences between them. You can see that the new one is a little bit shorter. In fact, if I bring in the tape measure, it's about 11.5 inches tall. It's about 6 inches wide. So it's just about a ½ inch or so shorter than the vintage She-Ra card back, but you can see the similarities with the artwork. It is really cool looking at these two side by side. So it's a really great job. I love this little fun little thing here. You can see the original figure. It says for ages 4 and over at the top, and in the same spot on the new one, it says for the adult collector. Oh yeah, I love it. What a fun little detail right there. All right, so we're going to remove the vintage one out of frame because I want to show you guys the rest of this packaging. So first of all, look what happens when I turn this around to the backside. Oh my goodness. So instead of the cross-sell, we've actually got some really gorgeous new artwork featuring Hordak up here at the top. We've got the Fright Zone at the bottom. We've got Grizzlor. We've got Catra. We've got Mantenna. We've got Claudine. And the thing that you'll really notice about this is that all of these characters in this artwork are inspired by the vintage toys. This looks like the vintage Fright Zone playset. These look like the original Horde and Princess of Power action figures. And that definitely seems the direction that Mattel seems to be heading for any She-Ra themed stuff in the Origins line. So really cool. But that artwork on the back isn't all. So let me show you this. You might notice that the packaging is a little different because this is all plastic on the front. This isn't just a bubble glued to a card back like what we see in stores. This is all plastic that wraps around to the back of the package, and you can remove this cardboard insert just like this by sliding it out. This allows you to easily remove the little trays. You can see there's a back tray that houses She-Ra's accessories, and then another tray that houses She-Ra right there. So this will be really easy to put back in the tray, put back in the packaging. There's no rubber bands, it doesn't look like. Okay, so we do have little ties on the capes there. But otherwise, you could easily put her back in here. You can put this all back together. You could slide the backing back in. So if you want to pull her out, mess around with her, decide you want to put her back in this cool retro packaging, it's collector friendly. You can do that. But we're not even done yet, because this little cardboard insert right here happens to be a trifold. So look at that. We can unfold this all the way to get a full look at this amazing artwork. And I showed you guys the Horde side. We saw the amazing She-Ra on Swiftwind behind the figure. But over here on the other side, we've got the Crystal Castle, we've got Lukey and Cowl, we've got Bow and Arrow and Glimmer, and again, they all look like they are inspired by the vintage toy line. It is amazing artwork, just like we've seen with everything for Origins so far. The packaging is a true treasure in this collection. I love it. So the other side of this trifold is a comic. Essentially, this is how we're getting our mini comic, but it's not so mini. It's this big comic on the inside of this cardboard backing here, and it looks like it kind of gives us a story of Adora getting the sword, becoming She-Ra. But again, all of this artwork is amazing because it is all inspired by the vintage toy line. Like, look, we even got some fantastic fashions. How amazing is that? I mean, this is amazing. Amazing artwork. Such good artwork. So, packaging, fantastic. I think the packaging alone is going to be something that a lot of fans are really going to love. I mean, look at that. Look how easy it was to put that back together so I could display her if I want to. But let's go ahead and get the figure out of this packaging now so we can get a closer look at her. All right, we've got our She-Ra action figure outside of that packaging. I'll bring in the tape measure here to show you guys that the figure stands almost perfectly at 5.5 inches tall. So she's going to fit right in, exactly the same height as some of the other females we've already got in the Origins line, such as Teela and Evil-Lyn. Now, I did mention that She-Ra is also getting a retail release, and unfortunately, since she's not out in the US yet, I can't do a comparison time with her to show the differences, but I do know there are some differences, with the biggest being in the head on this version, because this one, I think the face is different, but for certain, this one has rooted hair. And the version that's going to be at retail is just going to have molded plastic hair. So this one is a total throwback to the vintage action figure line, where they were essentially a combination of dolls and action figures, where we've got the real rooted hair. Now you can see that there is a clear band that's kind of holding her hair back in a ponytail. I'm going to leave it like that because I tend to get the hair really messy on these. I'm awful with rooted hair toys. But you know, you might want to remove that if you want her hair bigger and kind of billowing out there. I think this looks pretty good. It's really nice hair. You can see it's got some curls in it and everything. Obviously, with Mattel being the manufacturers of Barbie, they're going to know what they're doing when it comes to rooted hair. This does alter the head a little bit because this is more of a doll type head. Now, it is not squishy, it is harder, but it doesn't really have the same kind of articulation, meaning it's not on the same type of ball joint that we've seen the other figures on. So it mostly just looks left and right. You can see there is a little bit of wiggle room where it slightly moves up and down, but it is not removable. So she does not have an interchangeable head like the other figures, at least from what I can tell. It definitely doesn't seem like it's supposed to come off because it's much tighter around the neck and it feels like it's stretching when I'm pulling it. So the head does not appear to be removable. The face sculpt is pretty nice on this. You know, I was kind of comparing it to the vintage figure, and it is a different look than the vintage figure, so I'm kind of going back and forth on how much I like this, but all in all, it's nicely done. I mean, it's got nicely painted eyes and eyebrows, you got the red for the lips there, so all things considered, it's still a very nicely detailed face, and like I said, I do believe that the face itself, the whole head, is different than the retail release, but definitely with the rooted hair there. So you saw me take off the little mask. This works very much like the vintage She-Ra mask. You can see it's got the amazing kind of reflective glittery stickers on there, so it's very shiny, especially under my studio lights. And it's molded in sort of this goldish yellow plastic. It's like a bright gold. It's much brighter than that of the vintage figure. But this could just fit right over her head so that it looks kind of like the tiara coming off the sides of her face. But also, just like on the vintage figure, you could flip this upside down and it turns into a mask to conceal her identity, which was supposed to be the actual She-Ra look on the vintage toy. So really cool that you've got both options there. It's the same style, kind of like little ring type deal where it just sits over the top of her head and kind of line it up with the eyes. It looks really fun. And it's very, very similar, like I said, to that of the vintage toy. Now, it is a little loose. You saw it kind of just fall off just a second ago. You just got to find the right sitting over the hair there. But yeah, there you go. That kind of clips on really good. Sits right in the hair there. But it looks really fun. I love that it's this old style vintage figure version of the She-Ra tiara. And everything else about this definitely tries to mimic what we saw in that vintage figure. You can see she's got the cloth cape, nice cloth red cape, but it also has kind of like the lace coming around the arms. And you can see that this is also done with some little gold elastic bands. So just like on the vintage figure, which also means I'm a little worried about this stretching out over time because that's totally how my vintage She-Ra is, but it works really nicely for what it is right now, new out of the packaging. Some of the parts here are reused. You can see that the arms are the same arms we've seen on both Teela and Evil Lynn. She's got the same details in the wrist bracers. And the upper part of the legs are the same as well. However, everything else on here appears to be a new sculpt because we've got brand new boots, the She-Ra style boots. We've got the She-Ra style bodice there. That whole upper body is sculpted, but it is designed to look the way her outfit looked on that vintage figure. It's not an actual jewel in there, but it is like a kind of metallic blue paint, so it's nice and shiny. But then she does also have this new plastic belt accessory, which has the same kind of metallic glitter sticker that's seen on her tiara, so it's really cool. And then we've also got the kind of lacy skirt piece there as well, which is a bit shiny also. So it's all in all, it's really nice looking and does a great job of capturing the look of the vintage. Now, the articulation does function pretty much just like what we've seen with all the Origins figures, with the swivel at the elbow, the bend at the elbow, the swivel, and the hinge joint at the wrist. You can turn the waist left and right. You got the ball joints at the thighs so the legs can go outwards, move forwards and backwards, swivels at the knee, bends at the knee, and then the ankles can move forwards and backwards, as well as rock slightly side to side there. So really nice. And even though the head isn't removable, the rest of the figure does retain the interchangeable pieces. So look, we can pop the arms out of the shoulders, which also kind of allows you to remove the cape there, so you can see how that works. You can remove the waist there, the upper body right there at the waist. This is how you can remove that little belt piece. And then you can see the skirt also just kind of slips on over that as well. And then I don't think do the boots come off of this too? There we go. Yeah, you can look at that. You can pull the entire boot off the figure as well. So these are great because these are actually a little bit higher. So they come up like higher on the leg there. But yeah, they could still be removed. So that means you can do some swapping between the female figures in the line. You know, if you want to mix and match parts with Teela or Evil Lynn, those are the only figures that you're really going to be able to swap parts with. But, you know, it's still fun. You could do some fun things with it. And hey, this also gives us an opportunity to look at She-Ra without the cape, without the skirt piece, probably looking very much like a lot of kids' She-Ra looked back in the day after they lost a lot of the accessories. But yeah, this gives you a chance to look at her this way as well. And it's all very easy to put back together. You know, that skirt piece just kind of slides right over that. You just kind of put the plastic belt over. You clip the body back on. It's really easy to put her back together. For the cape, I find it easiest to slide the arm through one of the elastic bands and then just kind of stretch the other one over with one of the arms removed, and then you can just kind of pop the other arm back in, and that seems to be the best way to get the cape back on the figure. All right, so She-Ra does come with a few accessories, starting off with the Sword of Protection, and you can see Mattel opted to go kind of in the Filmation style, because this sword does look a lot like He-Man's. It is a little smaller, it's a brand new sculpt, and it does have the little blue gem on there, which again, same kind of metallic paint as the one on her torso. You know, the vintage She-Ra figure had a very different looking sword, but we've got the, you know, kind of classic power sword type look for the Sword of Protection, which I do like. It's molded in that same bright gold plastic seen elsewhere on the figure, and she can actually get a really good grip on it with either one of her hands, so that is really nice. She also includes a shield accessory, much like the vintage toy. This time around, instead of clipping to her wrist, it actually has a handle on there, so she can hold that in her hand. Now, that does mean that she kind of has to hold the shield sideways or like directly out in front of her. I think I kind of prefer the clip of the vintage figures, but that might be different for you. And for what it's worth, she holds onto the handle nice and tight, so none of these are falling out of her hand. She's got a really good grip, which is awesome. And the last accessory is fun. This has sort of become normal for She-Ra figures at this point because it started with the Masters of the Universe Classics version. The vintage figure just had a comb, so you can comb her hair. This is the comb axe. So it's a weapon. It's also a brush for her hair. You got both of those there. The handle's a little big, but you can still get her to hold on to it. And, more importantly, you can groom She-Ra if it's needed. She's got rooted hair, so I guess it's a good thing that it's included. All right, guys, it's comparison time. So let's stand this brand new 35th anniversary She-Ra alongside that vintage action figure we've talked so much about throughout this video. So you can see the two standing side by side. You can see the similarities. You can see the differences, especially in some of the colors of the gold and the weapons and stuff like that. And the other She-Ra I want to stand her alongside of here, well, I want to get all three of them lined up, because just recently Super 7 released an updated 5.5-inch version of She-Ra, but they did theirs more in the style of the old Masters of the Universe figures and based her on the Filmation She-Ra. So it's really interesting seeing like these two brand new 5.5-inch versions of She-Ra that are done so very differently, and it's just kind of fun looking at all three of these figures standing right alongside each other. The other thing that I absolutely had to do, I had to get out the vintage Swift Wind and put this new Origins She-Ra on top of it, and she looks really good on it. I mean, she sits on there perfect, especially with that added articulation. So, another display option for you if you've got a Swift Wind or want to track one down. Plus, I don't know, maybe we'll get a new Swift Wind in Origins. Time will tell. So there you go, my friends. That is a look at the new 35th anniversary PowerCon exclusive version of the Masters of the Universe Origins She-Ra action figure. All in all, I really like this one. I think the packaging is amazing, and she looks really good on it because, it's got that throwback to the vintage Princess of Power line. She just looks right on that pink card back, but also it features some gorgeous artwork. I love the trifold. I love the collector-friendly packaging, so really A+ stuff on the packaging there. And the figure itself is a lot of fun as well. I actually really like the rooted hair. I know that's something a lot of fans wanted to see done with classics, and it never happened. But the retail version's going to have that molded hair, so for those that don't like the rooted hair, that version's going to be at retail. So it's always cool to have the options there. Now, this particular She-Ra figure was sold pre-order only since it was a convention exclusive, and unfortunately, those pre-orders sold all the way through. So if you did not pre-order her, the only way you'll be able to find this one at this point will be on the aftermarket. But for those that did pre-order it, Mattel is shipping these at the end of November, which means they're going to be arriving to fans all throughout the month of December. Guys, thank you so very much for watching this video. And until next time.
The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is available for pre-order now. This official guidebook is published by Dark Horse Books and features over 750 pages of photos and information on your favorite He-Man and She-Ra action figures. And don't miss out on the exclusive bundle pack available for pre-order now from PowerCon. This bundle includes the official guide as well as an exclusive character guide supplement that you won't be able to buy anywhere else. Don't miss out. You have the power.